Jack here, JBF Music and Guitar Lessons. What I've got for you guys here is kind of roughly how to sound a bit like Steve Vai or how to write licks a bit like him. I had a request a while back about maybe integrating this into my signature licks videos. I've done a few on Vi, you can check with the eye up there. I've been racking my brain and I can't really think of a way of melding the two worlds, so what I thought I'd do is just kind of try a video on how to write a bit like Vi or certain players, so if there's other players you want me to do this on, hit me up in the comments. I'm really not sure about what format I want to go for, so I'm just going to try a kind of really laid back and formal one. Again, let me know what you think about it, let me know what you like and don't like and all that sorts of stuff. The licks I'm doing here will be using concepts from the signature licks video and also my kind of guitar tutor critique Steve Vai, where I kind of watch him do stuff. I'm going to take concepts from both of those and apply them into here. So if you haven't watched those first, it might be worthwhile checking them out to get yourself up to speed about some of the concepts and ideas we'll be talking about. To get the housekeeping out of the way, the old subscribe, enable notifications, the links and the comments are all really great for the channel. They help this video out as well, they'll make it easier for other people to find. So all that stuff's great, but I just want to kind of crack on with this one. I'm going to base these licks in E Lydian, because that's the mode we probably most commonly associate with Vi, and indeed the key to some extent I suppose. I have covered more Vi Lydian stuff before, which you can check with the eye up there. The one I'm going to kind of tackle to begin with, we looked at in the signature licks video where it's this kind of tapping thing. It's kind of doing that and then taking it down through the scale. But even this little bit by itself, isolated, is quite a Vi thing to do. So what we've basically got here is the 7th fret, the 9th, and then the 11th all on the E string. And you're basically tapping the 12th fret. What this is doing is you've got the 12th fret is the root, that's an E, you've got a major 7th here, a 6th and a 5th. We're kind of hinting at some sort of E major 7 type chord, which is going to work well in a Lydian context. Now, I'm not going to include tabs in this lesson because I don't want to write stuff out verbatim, because the idea is kind of like how you can write in the style of Steve Vai, rather than here's some licks to learn, go and play them. This is more about a kind of creative thing, it's about adding your own spin to it and taking what you need from it. That being said, some of the things you can do with this little pattern to make it sound more Vi is just vary how often you're tapping it. If you're just going pulling off, you know, so I'm just doing 12 down to 11 down to 9 down to 7. That's somewhat Vi, but if you just randomise how much you tap here, so you can do it once before you pull off, you could do it twice, 3 times, or whatever. Randomising it's going to make it sound more Vi. You could also add in little slides. I get that a bit cleaner, sorry. You know, that kind of thing, the kind of slightly daft noises he does. In the aforementioned lick, he basically taps this down through this kind of scale shape here. So you've got 11 starting on the E, 9 to 7. On the B, the same notes, 11, 9, 7. Down to the G, 11, 9, 8. 11, 9, 8 on the D as well. And then back to 11, 9, 7 on the A string. And you can just kind of tap after you've been tapping this 12th fret here, right? Just tap the 11th fret when you're going down. And like I mentioned in the signature licks video, you can kind of randomise that stuff as well, so I don't want to go into too much detail on that, but that is another way to get a Vi sound using this kind of shape. Another thing he quite likes to do is tap using a pedal point. If you want to know what pedal point is and some licks to use with it, you can check out the eye up there, but basically just keep tapping a fret. So ideally you want one that's going to outline the underlying chord. I'm going to go with the E, which is the root. And you can even just go down the scale, kind of sliding into notes. So the scale of E Lydian, just to let you know, you've got an open E, you've got a 2, 4, 6, 7, and we're back to that 9, 11, 12. So there I was just going down, sliding into notes a little bit. Because if you slide into them, slightly more Vi thing going on. And again, this idea of randomizing it will come into play, so you can kind of add in trills and slides between the notes. So rather than just sliding up then progressively down, you can kind of slide up more. Add in trills and that kind of thing. So let's pick another note to use as the pedal. Let's go with this G sharp. That's E's major third, so this will work in the Lydian kind of context. And we can do the same slidey thing. Or we could do the trills. We could also start using some 3-note per string legato shapes, you know, the kind of... Again, we're just using the same shape we looked at E Lydian all the way from the open E string, so let's do a bit of that. So like this stuff isn't easy to do, you need to have these kind of techniques down to be able to combine them all together, so it's lots of different pieces of the puzzle. To recap the main things we've done, kind of tapping one note as a pedal and randomizing it, so rather than just being one, you can do multiple times, using slides, using trills, and a little 3-note per string, kind of legatos as well, just going up and down the scale, sliding with it as well. You can also slide into the note you're tapping, which I think I probably did there. So what I was doing was tapping the 16th fret, sliding into it from the 14th. Feels a wee bit fiddly sometimes, like your fingers are kind of falling over each other, but that's quite a Vi thing to do. And thinking about it even using the open string, because that's going to be an E, which is our root here in E Lydian, we can kind of pull off to that. So say I tap this note, pull off to the open E, and then just use some sort of legato, we're going to get a Vi, or maybe slightly more Satriani sounding thing. Let's go for it. Yeah, so tapping that fret, pulling off to the open, and then just using some sort of 3-note per string shape from this Lydian scale. And again, just kind of moving it up and down randomly. Again, you can combine this with the trills, so you could... There, same idea, tapping, pulling off, doing some sort of trill. And then down to the legato thing. Adding in the slides. Over the wider distance as well, so not just between two notes. And the same with the trills, you could do them over wider intervals as well. So let's do thirds so it's not too much of a stretch for me. So there, tapping the 16th fret and just pulling off to any note really, trilling a third higher. Again, all I'm doing is conforming to the notes of the scale here. There's a lick in my aforementioned kind of reaction critique video that Steve Vai likes to do. So you get that kind of thing as well, where you'll take like a kind of short phrase or a slightly more bluesy thing, or I say bluesy, something that involves bending. So let's look at applying that to this kind of initial shape we did, this one here, right? So what we could do... Okay, what I'm doing there, again, this is just an E Lydian thing. Got the 12th fret on the B string, I'm sweeping through to the 9th fret on the E, hammering on the 11th and bending it up a semitone to get to the root. So we've got the same notes we had before, the 5th, 6th, major 7th and root. Just move the 5th down to here, right? And you want to randomise that just like we did with the tapping thing, okay? So it's this basic idea, this note here, sweeping through to that one, hammering onto here, and at this point you could do a bend, you could do a double bend, so say we do one bend, a double bend, let's do a trill, let's do those back to back. So it's this randomising it, instead of it just being the same idea, you're twisting the end of it to make it a bit more engaging to listen to. And we could refinger that lick, so rather than breaking in, you could just hammer on from here, right? So we're going to go 7, 9, 11 on the E, and then you can just bend this. Again, a really Vi thing to do. Something he quite often does when descending, rather than doing the typical just kind of highest note to lowest. Although it will do that. You'll quite often start at the middle note, and then maybe go higher, back to that middle note and down. So if we take that through the scale, that's too simple to be Vai, so you look for ways to complicate things to add in legato. If you take something like, I think it's Freak Show Excess, where it's got all these weird bends and stuff, you want to kind of combine techniques a bit more. So we'll start off the same on these ones. So just hammer on, pull off. Then let's change up for these. Let's slide from the 9th fret to the 11th. Then let's slide from the 9th to 11th, pull off back to the 9th and slide into the 8th. Do the same on the D string. So we're going to just do hammers and pull-offs. Slide, pull off, slide, pull off, slide. And then on the last one, he does this an awful lot. You just slide between the notes. So we're going to slide from the 9th to the 11th down to the 7th. Add in some circular vibrato. More on vibrato and that kind of thing, how to get that sound with the eye up there. So specifically Steve Vai's circular vibrato, I've covered that. So, to recap that. A bit slower, we've got the hammer-ons. We kind of slide and pull off bits. And a slide. You could do things like adding in pinches as well, to get a bit more of a quirky sound. We'll notice as well you want to kind of change the rhythm, so rather than just keeping it kind of straight notes, change the phrasing a bit. So you might want to keep the first few straight and kind of go for a more swung. I'm just doing the same thing, right? Sliding up, pulling off, and sliding down. But you change how you phrase it rather than just rush some of it. All these kind of little tweaks, speed some bits up, slow them down, see what happens. Okay, so the final thing I want to look at here, and I mean, this is why doing this type of video is so difficult, because there's so many things to playing. Like, we've concentrated on one scale shape here, one here, and applying different techniques to it, and we're only like scratching the surface. Another thing he likes to do with the kind of sliding is do things that are quite staccato, so we can still go on up and down the scale. You know how we're doing the tapping, right? We're that thing, but without the tapping, so we're just going to slide up and down. But mute the notes when you slide up to them. And again, the trick here is resolving to a chord tone. So because we're on E Lydian, an E, a G sharp, or a B are going to be good notes to resolve to. You can resolve to the D sharp if you want a slightly more kind of floaty vibe. It's a bit difficult to describe that interval, but just try it out for yourself. Get up a E Lydian jam track. I'll link to one up there. Try these tricks out. So let's go further afield. I'm going to go up here. And just for reference, whenever I go further beyond like the 12th fret, we're just using the same scale shape, an octave higher, okay? I'm going to try and integrate some of the different ideas we've been talking about. I'll try to say them when I go as well, but that might trip me up and I might make mistakes, so you might have to bear with me. So I'm going to slide into notes using that kind of staccato thing. I might try some wider intervals now. I kind of want to integrate some trills, so let's try that as well. So they are just kind of instinctively doing a little bend, so that was a bit like that same thing, but using a note up there instead. So let's use some of the 3-note per string legato ideas, just to kind of hammering on, pulling off, and also that scale shape we looked at going across the fretboard this way. So I think I added in something a bit instinctively there, which is a kind of pre-bend. So that's a really Vai thing to do. Let's just quickly cover this as the final bonus trick. What I'm doing here is pulling off on the 9th fret to the 8th and giving it a quick little bend. And integrating that again with all the stuff, you know, the kind of staccato things, the trills, the more legato fluid slides, the pulling offs and hammer-ons. That way of going through the scale starting on the middle note. And of course ending with a do-do-do. I really don't know how well I've conveyed these ideas, and as I say, this is really just scratching the surface. There's much more to his playing than Lydian, these techniques and these two boxes. So let me know if you want more Vai or different players, and if you like this format. I'm not too convinced it's going to be particularly helpful myself, but I just want to try it to see if it will work. Check out that video for a much more structured look at playing licks like Steve Vai. This has been How to Sound Like, that's the playlist there. But yeah, hit subscribe to keep up to date with the channel, leave me a like and a comment, share it across social media, and enable all notifications by ringing that little bell on the side if you feel so inclined. Cheers guys.